Okay, we're going to start without Jim Thomas. Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1 Board of Directors regular meeting is now in session. We do have a quorum. Director Thomas is on the way. We will. The first order on the agenda is the citizens' presentations. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it is posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any presentations made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear presentations on specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 3 minutes or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officer. To speak during this item, you must complete the speaker's form that includes the topics of your statement. Topics of presentation should be limited to matters over which the board has authority. Presentation materials to be provided to the board or displayed in the meeting using district audiovisual equipment must be submitted in advance in accordance with District Order number 2014-124B. We have 2 people signed up that would like to speak at this time. Danny Mayer, would you? And you wish to speak on item 5.
Item 5, thank you, Jim. Danny Mayer, 2201 Prestwick Avenue. I wanted to do this during citizens' presentations. I have a list of questions, and I'll give y'all that list after I get through. I just want to read them, and hopefully y'all can answer them when that item comes up. The first question is, how exactly was the RFP broadcast? Number 2, why were there only 10 working days to respond to the RFP? How many companies actually responded to the RFP? Where are the responses? Are the responses available at the sign-in table tonight? If not available, will you make copies and make them available tonight? Do any of the directors know any personnel from any of the companies responding to the RFP? Did any of the directors have discussions concerning the RFP topic prior to or after its issue? Number 9, why the need for the expense of an outside evaluation? The MUD board and the general manager or district manager since 1973 has been able to oversee the operations of the fire department without the need of outside evaluations. Does the inexperience of the current general manager in fire department operations make it impossible for her to efficiently and effectively perform this job requirement? Number 10, page 2 of the RFP states the following: observations and recommendations must be summarized in draft report and discussed with the general manager prior to finalization of the report. Based on the purpose that you show as defined in the RFP, why is the general manager being given the opportunity to sanitize the report prior to its presentation to the entire board? If the true purpose is to perform an operational assessment of the fire department and its role, a department that the general manager oversees, then the board should not allow her the opportunity to remove or sanitize observations and recommendations regarding her performance. And number 11 and last, what is the total cost of the contract covered by this RFP? Thank you, gentlemen.
Do you have those in writing? Okay. I'll have to ask Danny, the general manager, concerning the answers to these. I don't know whether off the top of our head we can give you all the answers tonight. If not, it may have to be written and submitted to you, if that's all right.
I appreciate that.
Okay, we'll make sure that you get answers of some kind. Okay, one other citizens presentation. Bill Rose on winter averaging, a new subject.
While I'm bringing this up, I timed my presentation out at 2 minutes and 51 seconds. So I'm going to slow it down a little bit, and should I run over, I request your patience. This is not the correct presentation.
That was a good one, though. I remember that one.
Yeah.
Where do you have a flash drive? Do I have a flash drive? Yeah. I have it on my computer here. You must have copied the wrong one. Here's one. If I can figure out.
Like, don't you have a comedy act you can do a filler with or something? Tap dance, soft shoe, maybe a little bit singing.
Tell a few jokes, Mike.
It says you need to format the disk before you can use it.
President Moss, if you'd like to go on with the rest of your business and come back with this, I'll attend the rest of the meeting, so if you'd like
Okay,
to do that.
Pam, is there any reason we
Okay.
can't
You can do that, absolutely.
go on and come back with this?
You can.
Okay, let's do her, Bill. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed as consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Directors and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be a separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. 1, consider and take appropriate action to approve the consent agenda. A, April 07, 2015 special meeting minutes. B, April 28, 2015 joint meeting minutes. C, May 19, 2015 regular meeting minutes. D, May 18, 2015 special meeting minutes. May 2015 check register. F, approve interlocal agreement with Denton County for tax collection. Discussion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as listed.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Jim?
Any further discussion?
Yes. One, on the May 19th, there was a typo. It can be easily fixed.
Okay, all right, is that it?
Yeah.
You
Okay,
wanna say what it is? or-
Yes, and item number 7, it says General Manager McKnight explained to the developer that the developer decided the may include, it's they may include. It just left the Y off, it's just a typo.
And
okay.
then there's another, one under the regular session. It says regarding agenda items number 3B and C, a motion was made by Director Thomas and second by Director, Toomey and second by Director Thomas. It gets to the agreement that were, and it should, I think it says, it should be that was discussed. So just a minor typo there.
Director, you agree with the,
With those minor changes, yes.
yeah, okay, and Director Hayes?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, all right. If there's no further discussion, we'll call for the vote. All of those in favor? It is unanimous. We will now move into our regular session. Consider and take appropriate action to elect the following officers of the Board of Directors. A, President, B, Vice President, C, Secretary Treasurer. Do we item A, do we have nominations for President?
I'd like to make a motion that President Moss continue on. I mean, I think the meetings go well, he runs a good meeting, and that's my personal feeling.
Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? If not, let's call for the vote. All of those in favor?
Aye.
It is unanimous. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate your confidence.
Just because I didn't want to be the president. Okay?
I know that's, I was counting on you not wanting to be. Okay, for Vice President,
Yes, I'd like to make a nomination of Neil Toomey to be Vice President
I recently learned that Neil's been on the board 4 years in total and never held a officer's position. So I think he's highly deserving, and I nominate him for vice president.
Do it. Thank you. Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any other nominations? If not, let's call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. I'd like to nominate Kevin Carr for Secretary Treasurer again. He's been fantastic in this job for as long as I can remember, and I would like to see him continue in that job, so I nominate Director Carr. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion or any other nominations? If not, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you. Well, maybe not.
Almost unanimous. Okay. All right. Are we ready again, Bill? Come on back. Let's conclude our citizens' presentation.
Let's see here. Looks like we can use zeros this evening. Bill Rose, 219 Inverness. This evening I would like to address information presented at your June 5th rate workshop and also touch on rate appeals with the PUC as well as lifeline rates. This is the 13th consecutive month that winter averaging has been brought to your attention. General Manager McKnight spoke about how you establish rates based on cost of service by customer class and how your rates for sewer are based upon costs for collection and treatment by customer class, residential and commercial. Unfortunately, until you apply the respective volumes at the wastewater treatment plant to the required volumetric cost, you have failed to do what you say you're doing. That failure renders all future cost rate data in the June 5th presentation erroneous. Under a rate appeal, the PUC will be looking at what is just and reasonable. Having residential subsidized commercial is neither just nor reasonable. Then there was a discussion on fixed and variable expenses. What is fixed is not variable and is known as the base rate. What is variable is volumetric. Here is scenario 1 showing a new base rate of $15.35. Scenario 2 with a base rate of $14.58. And by the way, this scenario generates $475,000 more than any of the other scenarios that were looked at. That excess invalidates every side-by-side scenario comparison. Scenario 3, winter averaging, had a base rate of $19.10. Really? Fixed costs varying from $14.58 to $19.10, depending upon the billing method? Remember, just and reasonable? Those preceding discrepancies invalidate the following cost comparisons that were shown. Slide A, which is the customer A. B, customer B, customer C, customer A high usage, the volumetric comparison, and the user summary. Is it just and reasonable for a customer A to pay $47.34 for processing 1,000 gallons of sewage, while customers B and C pay $2.63 per 1,000 gallons, and customer D pays less than $2.63 for the same service? Finally, you talk about lifeline rates. You say you're concerned, you say that you are concerned about seniors and those on fixed income. Really? 1, you don't have lifeline rates posted. 2, you don't have a lifeline rate proposed. And 3, you do not have a lifeline program with qualification standards. Gentlemen, when you change your rates, you're opening a 90-day window for a PUC rate appeal. Correctly allocating costs between customer classes and adopting winter averaging is just and reasonable. Thank you for your attention, and I'll see you next month.
Jim, can I ask a question? Am I allowed to ask a question?
Yes, you might, Director Thomas.
Hey, Bill,
Bill.
Can you go back for a second? Third or fourth slide you showed, I think it was 52% and 48%.
Yeah, that would,
Those numbers are nowhere near right.
those, and this may, I don't want to get into discussion.
Right, and I want to say, did you have a question for clarification?
Well, under all the scenarios we looked at, the worst case was at 19% commercial, so I have no clue where that 42% comes from.
So the question is about where the data came from.
The data came from an open records request, and this particular slide has been shown in a previous presentation.
Numbers aren't right, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Rose.
Thank you.
Next item, item 3, consider and take appropriate action to approve interlocal cooperation agreement for July 4th community event with the Town of Trophy Club. Do we have discussion?
I just want to say that I passed this out to you all. I had sent it out earlier this week, and once it was received and finalized from the town. And so it's presented to you as a handout, as well as the invoice from the town to the district.
Okay.
Is anyone from the town here to discuss this, or?
I did send Adam a message that we would see him here at the beginning of the meeting, and he's not here.
So Adam was gonna be here?
He never responded.
When did you send that? Today or yesterday?
No, I sent it last week when he came and asked me if he could still get something on the agenda.
Okay, well, I'll just say up front, I don't have any problem with, continuing the 10,000 as we budgeted, but I do have a problem with, voting on an interlocal agreement that the town council hasn't even, took action on. And from what I understand, they just recently saw it in the last day or so. So I think you're putting the cart before the horse as far as, if we were to initiate it and we approved it, then passed it on, that's the process. But what if they, as the council, does modifications on it, then it has to come back to us again? And that's my issue with it. I don't have any problem with possibly, Pam, you can correct me if we could do this, is, say that we can authorize the president to, approve it, after the council approves it. Can we do that?
You could do that.
Okay. Well, I'd like to make that motion then, is that only after the council approves it, as long as there's not any changes, that I say we authorize the president to approve this contract, the interlocal agreement.
Do we have a second? I'll second the motion.
Discussion?
We have a motion and a second. Yes, discussion.
If you look at the town's budget, last year on hotel tax, their actual number was about 107, and this year they're budgeting over 200,000. And the hotel tax can only be used on marketing and things like 4th of July. I'd like to see what their budget is for the 4th of July and how much of the, we now have 2 hotels and soon to be 3. I'd like to see, we have other priorities, and again, I echo what Director Carr said, but I'd like to get an overall presentation from particularly Adam to come in here and tell us how this money's been spent, why it's a priority, and also what are sources that he's using. If they have over, years ago, they didn't, I remember the first year that the hotel came in, I think the hotel tax was a mere $10,000 or $11,000, strictly from memory. And as I said, last year was 107, and they're budgeting more than 200,000. They have other sources now, and I'd like to see why we, our money is still a priority to the success of a 4th of July celebration.
Any
My own
fur-
opinion.
Okay, thank you, Neil. Any further discussions?
Yeah, Jim, look, personal opinion. We said a long time ago we were going to participate doing this, and I'm absolutely in favor of doing it. Now, Neil, I think you make a really good point. You know, things change in the course of a year. It's probably helpful to see where the town is. I'm kind of, well, I'm shocked is too strong of a word. I'm surprised. That's the word I'd say. You know, we had the deal 2 years ago where we did the $42,000 on Adam's request for Harmony Park, and then the town didn't want to take it because they didn't know about the ILA. So I am kind of surprised. We got 2 councilmen here. I am kind of surprised that there was nothing about this. But quite honestly, guys, it's only I say it's only $10,000. We've been doing this for eons. And I'm very much in favor of continuing to do it, but I think Neil's got a good point. We ought to ask Adam to show us if there are any changes, but I think we ought to go ahead and do it. And Jim, I don't have any problem at all with your moving forward if they come back and show you whatever's needed to show you.
Well, I agree we should do it, but what you're doing is you're gonna approve a contract that the town council themselves haven't even seen or discussed.
Well, Kevin,
What if they change it? That's why I said give the president the authority so we don't have to meet again.
Well, and it may mean that the council may not need the money. They may take it out of the hotel tax money, since they've got to spend it for something. I don't know what the council's position is or is going to be on it. So, okay. Any other comments?
I have a comment. I think the 4th of July celebration here at Trove Club is something to be proud of.
Yes.
And I would like to vote in favor, if we ever get around to voting, in favor of us continuing with the $10,000, because it's our little contribution toward what I think is a good thing for this town.
I basically feel the same way.
Okay, I believe that with the motion and the second that we have, it does not.
Well, I don't have a problem voting as Kevin has outlined, but are we still going to have at least ask somebody like Adams to come up here and give us at least a short presentation about what they're doing? I agree 100% with Director Hayes. The 4th of July has been a tremendous success in this area, and we need to. And if our 10,000 is needed, let's give it to them. And but at least they should, come in here and ask and give us a presentation. I mean, this is going on back to 2006, 2007. We've had the same situation where, okay, explain how is this going to work and so forth. And it's almost like every year they just send us a bill and, count on us just to say yes. I will support as this motion's laid out and give and once the town council approves, just as the way this motion's been read, I will go along with that. But I still think sometime in the future, we still need to have Adam or a other representative come in here and explain to us how the 4th of July is being funded, how our money's being utilized, and what the other sources are.
Okay, thank you. I think, would you restate the motion, Director Carr, so we all understand it?
I'm in favor of approving the ILA, the interlocal cooperation agreement for 4th of July community event only, and giving President Moss authority to approve it only after the council approves their own interlocal contract. They might, they may approve it, they may not, they might make changes, and that's why, I'm hesitant about doing it. But the motion is to, give the authority of the President Moss to approve the contract of the donation of $10,000 to the 4th of July community event, only after the town council approves it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second in the discussion. Let's call for the vote. All those in favor? How are you voting? We're voting 2 against?
No, listen, the money will get paid, I read that thing, and I don't see anything in it. I mean, two of them are sitting right here. I don't see anything in it they would object to, so I'm willing to vote for that because at least they will look at it, and that's just a formality. The money will still be given for it. So I'm willing for that to happen. So I'm willing to vote for it.
I think that this is a situation we run into all the time where the town council in the mud, somebody has to go first on voting for something that we all seem think's a pretty good idea. So in the interest of saving time, why don't we go first and approve the interlocal agreement? And good chance I think the town will approve it also, and we'll be done with it.
Let me just clarify. So we have 3 votes yes, and you, were- Mr. Thomas, yes? Was yes or no?
I'm in the same boat to Jim. I feel exactly the same way.
We just need to quantify the vote, because, okay, so
Call-
3
Call
and,
it yay and nay. Call it again.
Those in favor?
Okay.
There are 3. Those opposed? 2.
thank you very much.
Motion carries 3-2. This does not in any way restrict the town from getting the money. We have 2 esteemed council members here. Do you wish to make any kind of a comment regarding this?
No.
Okay, all right. This does not mean that we are not going to provide the money. It means that we probably will provide the money. We would just like council approval to do so.
Wait a minute, Jim. I understood the motion to be, once council approves it, we will provide the money, not we might. We will provide it.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
correct.
And if they
not a
don't
might.
approve it, they won't.
But if they don't approve it, then we won't, and if they make changes on it, then we'll have to worry about how to handle that, so. Okay, moving on. Item 4, consider and take appropriate action regarding bank depository service proposals received, award contract, and authorize the general manager to execute contract for services and all necessary paperwork for depository services. Jennifer.
Okay, you all had requested that we go out for RFPs this year. All, I think, kind of began with some customer complaints that regarding, if you all recall, e-box. And what that was is some customers go online to their personal bank and pay their bills through their bank. Their bank deducts the money immediately, but because our bank doesn't participate in the program known as e-box, their banks send the money to a clearinghouse. They're like in New York and Pennsylvania. They actually cut a check and they mail it to us. So they're not, the money is not posted to their account, and of course, until we get the check, because we don't know they paid it till then. And I know some of you had received some complaints from customers. So one of the services that you all wanted us to look for specifically was e-box. We sent the RFP out, and we received 3 responses from First Financial Bank. I think we sent it out to about 10 banks, and we received responses back from First Financial, Prosperity, and Regions Bank. We went through, and in your packet, I've provided kind of a summary of what we looked at. We, of course, used the remote deposit for the check, so we wanted to make sure that whatever bank we used, we could continue with that. And, of course, fees are important. And looking at Regions Bank, they do provide the e-box, but you can see that their estimated monthly fees were very expensive, about $1,600, whereas right now with First Financial, we pay about $250. First Financial, on the other hand, had a much lower monthly fee. They do have the remote deposit, but they do not have the e-box service. Prosperity Bank offers the e-box through a third-party vendor, and they would pass that cost on to us. Their actual monthly fees for the bank are $0. They will charge us nothing, but they will pass on that third-party e-box if we use it, and it's $50 a month. Prosperity also offered the highest amount for the interest that we would make on our account, whereas First Financial was 0.15. They're offering a floor of 0.35. It can go up. So Prosperity Bank really wanted our business. We've included their proposal in your packet, and the staff does recommend that we move to Prosperity Bank.
There were just these three were the responses.
Yes.
And how many days did we send that RFP out for?
I think we allowed 20 days for the bank.
Just to clarify, so no one asks any questions.
Further discussion?
I make a motion we move to Prosperity Bank.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
I-
Discussion?
Yeah,
Kevin?
discussion.
I'm glad you didn't print it out, Jennifer. You cut a tree down with all the paperwork associated with this.
There, and again, there's no charge to the customer, is that correct? The MUD absorbs the fees?
Yeah, there's no charge for the e-box service. The only other charge I did forget to mention for both, if we were to go with Regions Bank, Prosperity Bank, any other bank besides First Financial, there is a cost for our billing software, STW, to set up the software to go with that bank instead. That's a one-time fee of $1,035. But the $50 a month, just like the $250 we pay right now for First Financial, that is absorbed by the district. There is no cost for the e-box. I do want to say one more thing about the e-box. We talked about this before. This is not going to be 100% proof. There are going to be customers that their bank will not participate in that process. And if that's the case, then they will not be able to use the e-box service. But in my experience, this covers about 85% of the customers that use e-box or that pay online with their bank. This should cut down about 85% of those people, it being a hard copy check that comes in. So I think it will very much improve our service to the customers. It will not cost them any more, and as a matter of fact, it'll actually cost us less every month. Instead of $250, it'll be $50.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll call for the vote. All of those in favor? It is unanimous. Item 5, consider and take appropriate action regarding fire department operational assessment proposals received, award contract, and authorize the general manager to execute contract for services. Part of our discussion, Jennifer, we have the 11 questions from Danny Mayer. How best should we, I know we can't answer all of those sitting here tonight, so how best should we answer those? Would you wish to prepare some answers to submit them him on a timely basis, or how's the best way that we can do that?
I sincerely apologize for being late, but can I see what they were? And Danny, I'm sorry. Daughter's getting married, and we were at a venue planning. I got caught in traffic.
I didn't realize he had made copies, so I was hogging them all. I apologize. I can try to answer some of these as we go through. I think some I may not be able to, but on the first question, how was the RFP advertised? We sent out, we contacted about 15 firms, and we sent an email out to all of them with a copy of the RFP. We've also posted it on our website. I allowed the time that I did as the board directed me at our meeting to bring back to them at the regular meeting the proposals for a firm to do a fire assessment. So that was the reason of the days, so that I could have it in last Friday, have the weekend to review those, and the board committee could review them as well. We had 4 companies that responded to the RFP. I do have the responses. I do not have them with me tonight in copies of them made, but I do have the copies here. If anyone would like to pass those around and look at them, you're welcome to do so.
Danny, would you like just to look at one tonight, or do you want to?
Can you make copies and email them to me?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, we will.
Can you scan them
We
email?
have them electronically. We ask that they provide them electronically as well, so we can do that.
Oh, there's no cost in paper and stuff.
So I will have to get your email address though, so don't leave without giving it to me. Okay.
7.
Yeah, I just want to put a note here to email so I don't forget.
We can answer 7, right?
I can't answer 7. You want me to finish what I can answer and then y'all can go through? I do not have any idea if anyone knows the people or if they've had any discussions. I do have experience in managing a fire department. I'm not sure how you want me to answer that, but that is not the purpose of this to assist me in my inexperience. I guess that's the answer. The reason that it was placed in there to have the draft report discussed with the general manager, my plan was to have a kind of a team put together and go through those any of the suggestions or recommendations that they may make, any types of observations. I just felt that it might be better for the fire department if we get a chance to kind of look through those and understand what it is that they're going to propose. I think that's pretty normal in this type of assessment. The purpose is not for the general manager to sanitize anything. What is the total cost of the contract? I'm not sure what you mean. I guess that depends on who is approved. They all have a different fee. Now I'll kind of turn it over to y'all to answer the questions if you have any personal knowledge or have discussed anything with these firms.
Okay, in regard to item 7, any directors have any comments?
I've had no conversations, nor do I know of anyone.
Nor have I.
Me neither. I know nothing.
No, I just, on the one, I know one firm, I saw a picture with, he's a member of, I think, Metroport, and I saw a picture with Nick and him, and that's the only thing. I don't know anybody else on any of the other firms.
And
Neil?
I don't know anybody with these firms.
Okay.
You
All
want
right.
to do 8, discussion? Obviously, if you don't know him, I guess you haven't talked to him. So
No, I
haven't
have
had
no
any
discussion.
No.
I haven't had any interaction. I think, I think you told me that Danny actually found one of them. Is that correct?
Yes, he emailed me that there was a firm that he was speaking with. The man was the previous fire chief at South Lake, and that is one of the proposals that we received. And actually,
Didn't Stephen talk to one of them too, or have lunch with them, or?
Stephen did tell me that he had met with one of the firms as well. Yes. But he told me that the man told him that he had received my RFP. I did not know that Stephen was talking with that person when the RFP was sent to that firm. It was just firms that we were looking for, that do this type of work. And like Stephen, I did contact a couple of people I know and got some suggestions of firms that other districts and cities have used. Same thing Stephen did. That's how we came up with a good list of firms to send it out to. It's kind of a specialized item. There's a lot of human resources types of firms that will tell you they'll do this type of assessment, but they look more at personnel and organizational structure, which isn't really the scope of what we wanted here. We wanted to look more at the operations of the fire department as it particularly applies to standard operating procedures, policies that they have in place, and make sure that they're appropriate. Also to look at our service times. We have a lot of ILAs as far as mutual aid. There's going to be one proposed next month for automatic aid, and that's different from mutual aid. And I think that it might be appropriate to have an outside firm just kind of look at the operations as a whole and come up with some recommendations on if we're doing great, then all's good. I think anytime we can come up with some opportunities to improve anything we do.
Thank you. Danny, when you get the copies,
Don or Danny Mayer? Okay.
yeah, when you get the copies that you're going to receive, if you have further questions, if you'll get them to me, I'll make sure that you get them answered.
Can I say one thing?
Sure.
I have one suggestion. It says nothing, I'm not casting aspersions on anyone, but having hired scores of consultants to do evaluations for my old company around the country, never did anyone get to see the results of those until after we had reviewed them, and then they went the other way. They didn't go up, they went to the top and then came down.
Okay.
I think you should see any report before Jennifer or anybody else gets to see it, because ultimately the decisions are going to be yours. But when you spend that kind of money to have an evaluation done, you never want to get the people that are in that department or responsible for that department to have the information before you do it. That's just my experience from having done this a lot of times.
Okay. Thank you, Danny. We appreciate the suggestion, and we'll certainly give it consideration. Do we have further discussion?
No, I just want to go into the firm that myself and the committee that reviewed the RFPs, we are recommending Emergency Services Consulting International. If you would like, I can tell you the names of the other firms. We received one from McGrath Consulting, Matrix Consulting, and MGT. Emergency Services Consulting International is a very good firm. They've been in business longer than the others. All of their consultants are highly educated and previous fire chiefs for different organizations. One has, I believe, a master's in, the other has a PhD. One was the previous general manager of Flower Mound, and the other, there was another close by organization. They really seem to have the best grasp on what we wanted to obtain from this study, and the cost that they proposed is $28,379.
I know in one of the discussions, at least the email I saw from Stephen and later changed, he was just going to do one on EMS by themselves, and then I think he approached you about maybe doing a joint one.
No, in the beginning, he told me that this was something they were thinking about, and I told him at that time the board had not met, and I told him that I would see if it was something the board wanted to do as well, and at that time he did not want to combine those efforts. I think after the board decided that you all wanted to go forward with this type of a study, we received an email, or Jim received an email from the mayor and wanted to meet with myself and Stephen and look at combining these efforts. And unfortunately that meeting couldn't happen, and so we're left here with, we sent out RFPs. I had asked Stephen for a copy of their scope of work. He had not developed it yet at that time.
You might mention that these were looked at, reviewed by our committee, which was
Yes.
Director Toomey and Director Carr, who spent a lot of time looking at these and reviewing those. So, okay, further discussion.
Yeah, Jennifer, I just want to make sure. If I understand it properly, what our SOPs for the fire services are sorely lacking. And I know that you've had Danny working on those things, and I think he's got a deadline he's supposed to meet to get them up to speed and up to cuff. But I also understand that they're sorely lacking. Is this study going to help us get those things up to where they need to be?
That is one of the primary goals of the study, for them to look at those. He is working on them. They have to be approved by the board. And so hopefully he will have those to me by the deadline of June the 30th. That will give me some time to review them, bring them to the board. And the goal was to get something in place that the consultant could just review. It's going to be very difficult for them if there's nothing to review and they're just trying to create something from the bottom up. So that was the goal of trying to get those done very quickly and get them to you all at the July meeting for approval, so that they will have something, to look at when they're reviewing it. If there's not any, then I think we can know how the study would change gears a little bit, in that they would probably suggest or recommend that we get some and possibly help write them, but I don't think that would be part of the scope of this.
Well, that, in my mind, that becomes extremely critical. We are yet to get we'll get a report later in the agenda from Neil and Kevin on what's happening with the town on the fire department and Danny's reporting structure. But depending upon how that thing gets structured, if we're still responsible for fire services, we've got to have an ironclad set of SOPs that whoever manages that thing operates under. Because the net result is, when it comes across the street, we're still liable and responsible. And so we've got to make sure we have an awfully good set of documentation to hand to somebody and says, this is what you operate under.
When I asked Danny for the SOPs, he provided me a set of SOPs. There was a portion of them that were shown as approved, and there was a portion that were shown as draft. When Stephen and I were having discussions, that was not the set that Stephen had. Stephen was going by a different set, which was from, I believe, 2012 or sometime. It was earlier than that, because it was
1999.
It was, yes, that's right, 1999, because it was before the millennium, and it was a set that was developed for the DPS. And so that in itself says that there needs to be some work done on these standard operating procedures. And I think having a firm that can come in and assist and make sure that these are, that I don't, if the 1999 is still appropriate, they can tell us that. If it's the draft 2012, that's what the other ones were. They were 2012 drafts. They've been in draft form since I came here, and I've asked Danny several times to try to get those finalized. I know he is working on them, and in his report last Friday, he did tell me that they're making headway on getting those finalized at this point. But yes, you're correct, Jim, that there needs to be a solid set of standard operating procedures that make sure that the fire department is operating according to the way the district wants them to operate.
Jim, one last question, and I'll hush up. Nick contacted you to meet,
Yes.
and it was going to be you and him and who else?
Jennifer and Stephen.
Now, if I understand, Stephen got sick and had to go to the hospital, and they had to cancel the meeting.
Yes.
But has there been any contact? I mean, golly, that's been 2 weeks ago. Any
No.
contact to hold a meeting since then?
No contact since then.
He's been on vacation.
And Stephen then went on vacation, so.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
He was here for a few days, and then I think after
He had to
the
leave?
council meeting, he had a planned family vacation.
Okay. Got it.
But did I remember right that this company that we rated and actually came out on top, the Emergency Service Consulting International, Danny actually found this company, is that correct? Is this one that Danny recommended, or was it another?
No,
Recommended or found another one?
I believe that he was, I don't know for sure, but I believe he was talking with Matrix.
No, I thought it was this one, but okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, any further discussion, and if not, is there a motion?
I'll make the motion regarding ESCI, that we approve the contract as proposed.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion.
I'd just like to say, when I was reading through all the four proposals, this one was very impressive. And there's a lot of boilerplate you sometimes see in proposals, and between the credentials of their staff and basically their expertise, I was very impressed with this particular group. There were some major pluses to some others, but there was one other that I was less than impressed with, because it was almost like they pulled out the bullet points from another presentation and just stuck it in there. But with a combination, again, I was impressed with the really two of the other companies, but when you look at the price and so forth, I think we'll get the quality and and basically looking forward, what we need, what our staffing should be. I think they'll cover a lot more in depth than the other groups here, and again, for the price, I think we'll get benefit out of it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Further discussion, Director Thomas.
Jennifer, question for you. In all fairness, when I read that thing, I thought you did a fairly nice job of putting an RFP together.
Thank
I thought that thing was really, really in depth, but I don't remember specifically one. I want to know, was our focus on fire services or fire services and EMS?
Only fire services.
All right, then listen, I'm willing to do this, Jim, but I would like to say in the process that if the town, wishes to also have these folks look at the EMS side of this, I think there's value in that, and we certainly should leave that as an open switch for the mayor and council if they want to do that.
Yes, that's fine.
For the record, I was right. On June 3rd, Danny actually sent an email, or this person, Sheldon, sent Danny an email saying it was a pleasure talking with you, and it was from ESCI, so it was the one that Chief Thomas.
Okay, well, good.
What was the date on that?
June 3rd.
June 3rd?
Jim, to answer your question, if there's any response or any contact from the town, we'll certainly take that approach, because we were the ones that proposed that initially, and certainly would not follow up on it if we get any response from the town or any
Jim, you know where
request.
I'm headed. There's
Yeah,
value. There's
I know.
value in this for a future decision.
Yes.
There could be tremendous value for both the town and us.
Yes, I agree. Okay, further discussions? No further discussions. We'll call for the vote. All of those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lori, it is unanimous. Item 6, consider and take appropriate action to appoint Pamela Liston with Liston Law Firm as general legal counsel for Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1.
I know that person, by the way.
You know her?
Yeah, I've met her before.
Is she willing to serve?
Is it any kind of a campaign speech, Pam? Okay, is there any discussion? If not, let's have a motion.
Well, I do have a discussion.
Yes.
What becomes of Bob West, if anything?
Pam, you want to answer that?
Actually, I called Bob today because I wasn't sure he knew what was in process here, and I wanted to make sure that he was. So I called him, and I told him that if you pass this, I anticipate still utilizing that firm, much the same way has already been in process in the past. We do need them for specialized things from time to time, and they're very strong in property matters and that sort of law. So Bob and I have worked together very well all of these years, and I don't see any reason why that would not continue. I told him my understanding of it was that the board really wanted to streamline and have one attorney for day-to-day matters and coordination of legal efforts. And he was completely gracious about all of that and said that he has loved serving the board and will love to continue to serve the board as you would want him to. and saw no problem with you guys wanting to reduce down to one attorney. He thought that was a good idea.
Okay. And Jennifer is going to also talk to Bob in the near future.
Yes, I was going to ask if it might be possible for next month, if he's available, and if not next month, maybe the month after. We asked Bob to come in and maybe kind of surprise him with something to thank him and acknowledge for all the years that he's provided to the district. Maybe come in a little early, have some cake, and then present him with something nice if y'all are agreeable to that.
That's a great idea.
I
He's
think
been here a
everybody's
long
a
time.
good-
Yeah, I'd also like to reach out to prior MUD directors, specifically MUD 1, since that's who he represented.
Sure.
He also did the Master District too, but so any prior MUD directors, if you can invite them.
Okay.
I'm just wondering how much of a surprise if he watches the recording.
I guess that's true.
I suspect he won't watch this, so
Yeah,
hopefully.
turn it off.
Okay, any further discussion?
I
If
want to
not-
tell you, he also told me that he was just recently elected. He will be in 1 year the next president.
Of the United States?
I'm trying to think it was
Running
president
too?
or vice president. I think it was president. I think he's president-elect of the Tarrant County Bar Association. So
Oh,
that's a
great.
new honor that
Wonderful.
he received recently that he's engaged
Great.
with.
That's good.
I've seen
Okay,
him an email.
there's no further discussion. We'll call for the vote.
Did someone make
I
a
don't think
motion?
anybody made a motion
Okay,
yet.
make a
Nobody's
motion.
motion? Would somebody please make a motion?
I would move that we accept the recommendation that Pam Liston become the major and sole legal counsel for the MUD.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. If there's no discussion, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Welcome, Pam, although you're here anyway. Okay, item 7. Consider and take appropriate action to adopt Order 2015-0616, amended Board of Director Code of Ethics. I want to be the first one to say,
Really?
Wow.
That sounds all right.
well, I didn't want to say it that loud, but almost, it's absolutely essential that that we maintain our open relationship with our residents. All documents, information, activities, and whatever services we perform, rate studies, water rate settings, and whatever, all of this information is available to our residents. We have nothing to keep from our residents at all. They are welcome to know and see anything and everything we do or have that they want to. I would like to recommend, hopefully, that any resident that has a question, that they would certainly take advantage of coming to our meetings to ask any question that they want to, and I can guarantee them they'll get an answer. If not, anyone can contact any one of our board of directors with any kind of a question at any time, and we'll see that it's taken care of. And that's my comment. Further discussions?
Well, having said that, I mean, there's a lot of changes in here that are very, very good. There's a couple of things, but I totally support that and absolutely believe that this statement, provide district information to individuals or other entities without going through the proper procedures for public information requests, should be struck.
What paragraph is that?
Yes, and it says directors will not. Article 5, Code of Conduct, directors will not.
It says page 9.
I absolutely disagree with that statement.
Further discussion?
Well, yeah, I got a couple of other
Okay.
little things, Jim.
Go ahead.
All right, when it printed out on my printer, it was different than when it was when I was looking at it online. But if you go to Article 2, Fees and Expense Policy, it says not to exceed the sum of $7,200, and then there needs to be a blank space after the 7,200. It's jammed in with the 7,200 per annum was jammed together.
Wait, I'm sorry, where are you at? What?
When it printed out, Jennifer, it printed on
he's
two
on page
separate
5.
pages. But when it's online, page 5, the 7,200 per will right up against each other. There needs to be a blank space in between them. It says
Yeah.
not to exceed a sum of $7,200 per annum, and it's just a type. You need to have a blank space in there. And then there was one other.
I think sometimes it looks a little weird in the red line, and then once you accept
No,
the,
online, I was looking on the online version is where I spotted it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we'll make sure it's correct.
All right, and there was one other, if I can find it here real quick, I've got it marked. By the way, Pam, I thought the vast majority of these changes were very well done and well needed, except for that one statement.
Well, they,
sorry, let me finish.
remember that this is just a draft and that staff put it together to the best of their understanding of what was being requested. And you have complete, full range to amend, modify, make other suggestions, take action as you want to on this draft. It's just a draft.
Okay, well, I want that statement canned if everybody agrees. On page 15, it's in section 2.04, and again, it's just a typo. It says regular board meetings are normally held on the third Tuesday of each month at 6 p.m. in the Savor Municipal Building, comma, boardroom. The comma needs to be deleted. It's not necessary.
Okay, anything else, Jim?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Okay, so just to be specific, the item that's being scratched is on Article 5, page 9 of the handout, and page 127 of the online packet. And it's under the section of directors will not provide district information to individuals or other entities without going through the proper procedures for public information requests. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Any other suggestions, corrections?
Are we in agreement as a board on deleting that one paragraph?
It's too restrictive.
Yes, I think.
Which way do you want to go, Jim? Because I'm going to go the other way.
Well, look,
In
I
that
felt
case, I'm not going to
just
tell
like
you.
just like Jim said earlier. When I read this, and then when I read back later in the article about, actions that can be taken when you don't do stuff. Look, if a resident comes to me and wants to know something, and I've got it in my possession, doggone it, I'm going to give it to them. As long as it's a legal document, I can give them. Obviously, if you're in contractual negotiations and there's some contract that's going on that you can't talk about, that's something you just can't sit there and roll out. I don't keep enough of it, very much of this stuff personally anyway, because most of it, Jennifer's got or it's online. But golly, if my next door neighbor comes over to me and says, hey, I understand there was a presentation that Jennifer made. Well, I happen to have that presentation here, and I'd pull the chart out and say, yeah, here's what it looked like. Now, I don't want to be restricted from doing that.
Well, along with what's already been said, I mean, we're elected to represent the people. And if they're asking for information, as long as it is in, executive session or something like that, I mean, we should be able to give it to them. And as you said, most of it, probably 90% of it's online anyway,
I would like to see the corrections and suggestions that were made be done to this draft, and I am not going to vote for it tonight. My suggestion is that we make these corrections and bring it back to the board. However, if anybody wishes to make a motion, please do so.
Would correct, you talking about the
Taking that sentence out, the other typos, and I personally want to look at it some more, but that's just me. Do we have a motion?
Jim, I went through it line by line, detail by detail, and now obviously I focused on the red lines, but with taking that one sentence out and the two little typos, I absolutely think this thing's ready to go.
Okay, well, I looked it over, but and maybe I'm concerned that I saw everything and caught everything I should. I probably did not study it to the degree that I should. I can either take everybody else's recommendations or not. So
I don't have a problem with tabling this until next.
Yeah, and you ought to be
next
comfortable with it,
meeting.
Jim, as well. I think all 5 board members ought to be comfortable with it.
And
Well,
we
yeah.
already have, we call it ethics in effect. All we're doing now is just cleaning it up.
He's
I
right.
think annually we're required to review it. Is that correct?
You're required to review it, but you do have something in place that's already there that,
is
right.
is there any problem?
We brought it to y'all a month early, so you'd have a month to table it.
Okay.
Well, and listen, Pam, I do think you've done a really fine job of cleaning up the language in this thing all the way through it. I mean, there's just a bunch of stuff that I think needed to be tweaked, and I think you've done a really good job in doing it.
Well, thank you. I don't want to take all the credit at all. The lion's share of the work was done by Jennifer or Lori. I'm not sure which one, and sent to me, and then I cleaned up some legal things.
Well, then my compliments go to Jennifer and Lori.
Scratch, Pam.
Does has everybody agreed to tabling this until the next meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah, I make a motion that we table this until next meeting.
I second.
Motion and second, all those in favor, it is unanimous. Item 8, consider and take appropriate action to approve an
Judiciary.
jurisdictional, did I get it? Jurisdictional mutual aid agreement for fire services with Denton County. Jennifer?
I'll have to defer that to Donnie.
Donnie?
Can I ask him one question before he starts?
Sure.
Donnie, is there any, I read through this one too, is there any difference in what you've had before and what this one says?
No, sir, it's just that,
Is it basically just the same thing
yes, sir, with the name change.
Okay. So it's the same thing we've had in place, guys.
The name change, can you tell me where that is?
I was reviewing a couple of other things, and then it won't let me go back.
Reason I
Oh, I'm
asked
having the
reason I
same
asked that question is that's what we've been doing for a long time. I didn't see anything in it that popped out at me, and I didn't see any reason not to go ahead and go with it.
I guess what I'm asking is if this is the same as before, who is this between?
Denton County.
Denton County.
It's Denton County.
Yeah, but
Where does it say that? I mean, it says within the state of Texas. And
At the top, if you'll see, it says State of Texas, and below it, it's a County of Denton. Pretty much most of the mutual aid contracts that the county signed with other municipalities, the COG kind of comes up with a boilerplate, if you would say, and those are handed out so that all the information is concurrent across the board for everybody.
And can you just kind of give the board an overview of what the responsibilities of this mutual aid agreement are for both the district as well as the other participants, the county? Kind of what it covers is what I'm trying to get you to kind of give them an explanation of.
This is what this is just that stating that we're going to provide aid into the county. It covers the county basis versus where we don't have to go to each entity. It covers the county if so that we can go and aid and assist somebody. It's the waivers and the liability. It does talk about some other expense fundings and the terms of the contractual agreement is for. It's just kind of just the legality stating that that we're going to send help or that we can get help from other agencies in the county. No different than what we've done in the past. It's just some I believe the past it's said the town. We didn't have per se one with the municipal utilities district is what this is going to clean up, to my understanding.
Okay, so this isn't, I mean, I just kind of want to point that out. I think Jim asked, is this just like the ones we had previously, but we didn't have one previously, correct?
Well, that would be correct.
Okay,
It
so
did,
I
it did
don't
say the
think
town.
this is
It's-
one that you've seen before, Jim. And what this is it's it's specifically to cover disaster type situations,
Right.
correct?
Correct.
Not just go for fires, as kind of what I want to point out. It's and in case there's a natural disaster here in Trophy Club, this allows other entities to come and assist in Trophy Club, specifically in disasters. It states in here that we have our we're NIMS compliant, that we have our emergency response plan in place. Are all of those items in place, Donnie?
We do have an emergency response plan. Everybody in the fire department is NIMS compliant. They're in the process of updating the emergency management plan just to current standards, just because every so many years we have to review and do that, and we're in the current process. And in that,
When was the last emergency management plan developed?
I believe it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago. I don't oversee emergency management, so that date just right off the top of my head is I don't know.
And one of the requirements I saw in here is that we train with all the other entities, like on a quarterly basis. Is that being done?
We're training in the NEFTA system quarterly. The Denton County has not hadn't had any quarterly trainings. We train with the jurisdictions that we bumps around and that we deal with.
Okay,
Does
but
this have to be approved tonight? And have the other entities approved it in this form? Do you know?
I do not know. I was just contacted yesterday that I needed to make this meeting, so
Okay.
there's just some information that I just don't know.
This might go along with what Jennifer was asking. I mean, I see other communities, they do these, rehearsals per se, or, stage disasters. Okay, you got a, broken arm or something like that. Do we,
it's not a disaster.
It's a
Well,
mock.
I'm
A
just
mock.
I guess unless it happens
Yeah.
to you.
We've had some mass casualty.
I've had a hangnail one time, and it was pretty painful. But
Hey, people
anyway,
call for it.
Anyway, have we ever done that with other Denton County and stuff, or?
Not with Tarrant County and the NEFTA organization that we are a part of and participate in. We within the last year we've participated in a mass casualty incident at
That's what
we
I'm talking about. I couldn't think of the name. With
Yes, sir, we-
Tarrant or Denton.
with Tarrant.
So we've never done one with Denton.
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
The reason I'm asking my questions is because this is irregular, that it doesn't state parties, and it does seem to identify all
Anyone
of
in the state of
political
Texas.
subdivisions in the whole state of Texas. But I was just doing a quick search to see what I could see from other entities, and they are using this agreement. It appears to me, from the way I can see it right now, the brief way I can see it right now, but they are listing parties within them. So I don't know if there's a rush on this, but I would like to make sure that the agreement is identified the way that it should be, and the parties are listed if they're required to be.
And Danny, Pam, I would like, if you go down into the active interlocal agreements with other governmental entities, it talks about in fire protection services that Denton County will pay a flat fee of $10,000 a year and $500 per call. But that terminates on September 30th, which is just around the corner. It's only like 3 months away. So whatever we do, we need to update the dates. If you go down a little further, same thing is true with.
I don't think that's in this agreement.
Well, I'm just asking. It's part of it. It says active interlocal agreements with other government entities.
No, that's the next agenda item. That's the attachment for the next agenda item.
Sorry.
Now that you mention it, that does kind of look like it could be an attachment to this, but this ends on page
I'm sorry. I thought this was
148 of your packet.
Okay. Excuse me. I thought this was an attachment.
Pam, are you suggesting that we perhaps table this until the next meeting and give you an opportunity to review it?
I'm suggesting that. Jennifer, is that an issue?
As far as I know, we haven't had one of these before, and so I guess that's up to Donnie. I think there is an active one in place with the town right now. I can't think of a reason that we couldn't wait till next month,
Well,
other than there's a tropical storm coming. I guess
When-
that could be a problem, but
It could, I mean, it could be done that you approve it, and then we can amend it the next meeting if we need to do that.
I'd rather
I
just
don't think
approve
so.
it.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we table this item.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to table this item. All of those in favor? It is unanimous.
Could have said that 10 minutes ago, Pam.
Right, it saved a lot of discussion. Item 9, consider and take appropriate action regarding summary of active interlocal agreements between the district and other governmental agencies.
Okay, I'm just going to introduce this as a couple of the directors have asked me. I think they think I start pulling ILAs out from everywhere, and they said, could I put a kind of a summary together? I'm not sure there's really any kind of action that you all need to take on this. I just put together for you a summary, and I left the fine print down there that, to the best of my knowledge, this is all of the active ILAs that we have right now. And I went through all of my files, and Lori went through all of hers, and finance went through all of theirs, and water went through all of theirs, and fire went through all of theirs. And this was the group of ILAs that we found that are currently in place. And with that, I'm just going to leave it to you all to if you have any questions about any of these.
Was W/WW water and wastewater?
Yes. I just made a category so that we now can kind of keep this as a summary going and maybe post it on our website or always have it available for y'all.
I just want to make a comment. This is great stuff. I mean, excellent job.
Thank you.
Rather than, I mean, I don't know. Sometimes when someone says, "Oh, an ILA," and you go, "Okay, which one?" And some of them have pretty similar wording on them, and you don't know which one it is. So, I mean, really good job.
Jennifer, 19 items on this list. Is an ILA in place for each of the 19 items?
Each one is a different ILA.
We have ILAs for ILAs.
And this is not contracts with like other entities. We got a whole bunch of those too. I mean, other like private companies. This is just agreements with other governmental entities.
But
ILAs
there's
are.
one behind each one of these.
And Jim, the reason I actually requested this because I went back in the minutes, and I went back like 10 years just trying to figure out which ILAs were in effect. And there's some in here that I didn't even get to back. There's one from 2000. But there was recently an ILA that we were discussing as a board, and Jim Hayes and I, kind of being the new guys on this time, we didn't even, we were trying, got kind of caught like, okay, when did this take place? And
If you would
so
come to the meetings, you would have seen them.
I should have watched them all, I guess. But the bottom line is, I thought if we had one complete source for once, then we can kind of like know what's out there. And so it was really more for an informational, and I commend the staff for doing a great job of pulling this together.
Yeah, I don't keep much, but I think I'll print this one out and hang on to it because this is a really nice summary.
And as we add or change, we will make sure we get y'all copies updated.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, any further discussion?
You mentioned you can get copies of. Is it possible that you could just put them in a folder or something to send them, maybe a thumb drive, and then every director has a copy of these ILAs?
Okay, sure.
That's a good idea.
I thought of that one.
Okay.
Any further discussion on that
Only
item?
if you all then promise not to ask me for one again.
Can you change the color on mine, though?
Okay, if we're ready for item 10, consider and take appropriate action regarding the May 2015 financials. A, combined financials, B, variance report. Discussion.
I talked to Terry, who did a fabulous job. She's much easier to work with than Renee. No, just kidding.
Come on, Renee.
Just kidding. But I mean, I reviewed the financials with them. There was one item I noted: the legal fees actually went down. That was because of an offset that we received from a water line relocation. It was around what, 82,000 or something. 84. Yeah. And so that, if you look at the financials this month, it went to like a negative 33,000 or something like that. Is it correct? So that was good that we actually offset the legal fees with that amount. So take note, Mr. Rose, they went down. So, I make a motion that we approve the May financials. Let's see.
And variance report?
And variance report. Thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
Dead there for a minute.
If there's no further discussion, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor, it is unanimous.
While we're on the subject of financial reports, I would like to make a motion of something that we discussed in the rate committee, and which Terry had some input on, and that is we have always carried a reserve as relates to fund balance. I think it's better to have a reserve that is cash in the bank. So I would like to make a motion that we change the reserve calculation from fund balance to cash in the bank.
Jim, is that because it gives you more flexibility?
It gives you a more accurate picture of where you are, because when you do fund balances, you get all concerned about receivables and payables, and really what we're interested in is how much cash can we come up with if some large expenditure hits us.
Okay. Pam, is that a legal?
Are you talking about on the way that it's reported?
Yes.
Yes, he can make that motion. sure.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I would second
We
that.
have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor? It is unanimous. Any other comments? If not?
Yes.
Oh, Renee?
Are you wanting us not to do the fund balance report each month and do a cash report instead?
I would love to see that, yes.
Or
'Cause
continue to do the fund balance report and add a cash report?
I really don't personally make much use out of the fund balance report.
Is it gonna be a lot of time to do
Why
both
don't
of
we
them?
just switch it to do the fund balance on quarterly and the cash flow monthly instead of the opposite?
Okay.
We've done that, the cash flow quarterly and the fund balance monthly, so let's switch it up.
Okay, that's cool.
Just surprise us.
See if they catch it each month, which is in there.
Like a box of chocolates.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, let's move to the reports and updates. Update from the board committees. A, Fire EMS Consolidation Committee.
We met at 5 o'clock today. We went over a summary report.
Kevin, who was there?
It was Councilman Schaffner, myself, Director Toomey,
Eric Jensen.
Eric Jensen, and Lou phoned in. So there was Councilman Kirk was I think someone said he was on vacation or someone. Okay. Anyway, we met. We reviewed our summary report. There's some minor changes, and then we plan on presenting to the council and to the board, I believe, July, was it 14th or the 11th? 14th. And that's, you have anything to add on that?
Well, that's next time the council meets. We didn't set a time for make presentations or whether they should be a joint presentation. Didn't make any real recommendation on that. They said, I believe Councilman Schaffner said that was a target to have some type of presentation made to the town council on the 14th of July. And then there was some discussion whether we should have some type of joint meeting to just have one presentation. And the unique thing about that was it would be a presentation without questions. So instead of a 3.5-hour meeting, we'd be done in 45 minutes or less.
What's the conclusion of the committee as regards having one boss for the fire chief?
We looked at 3 different scenarios. One was the town take over the fire. The second one was the mud take over EMS, and the third was, I don't want to say status quo, but it was similar to what's operating now, except with a revised ILA that, kind of gets rid of the fog that's in there now. Is okay, who's going to have the operational control, the say-so, methods of measurement through goals, SOPs, whether they're carried out, audit, review on a quarterly basis to make sure, what operationally is supposed to be done is being done. And the consensus, even though it wasn't in a motion as far as saying, choose one or the other. The consensus was that the town manager should have the control over all personnel, and then the MUD general manager would, have input with the town manager on SOPs, one SOP that's combined. So you might have two different portions of it, but you'd have an EMS SOP that deals with the medical aspect of it, and then the fire SOPs that deals with the fire aspect of it. Is that about right, Donnie?
Yes, sir.
Did you want to mention anything, Philip, or?
I would like to get my 2 cents in on this subject since I wasn't on committee. And I wanted to, I got a 1-sentence explanation for 13 items. Here's what I think should happen to the fire, and I recognize I'm only one person and I'm only putting down some of the items that I think need to be considered. But I would say this. Number one, fire and EMS tax assessment and collection should remain as it is. Number two, the MUD general manager approves the fire SOPs. And when I say the general manager or the town manager, if it requires council approval or MUD approval, MUD board approval, then you can assume that when I say MUD general manager, if it requires the board, it would include the board. Item 3, the town manager approves EMS SOPs. Number 4, the town manager administers both on a day-to-day basis. Number 5, the town manager prepares annual budgets for both EMS and fire. Number 6, the fire budget is submitted to MUD for final approval and change if they think that's necessary. Number 7, when the fire budget is approved by the MUD board, the town manager will run fire and EMS on a day-to-day basis. Number 8, town manager will have full control of fire and EMS employees, for example, hiring, firing, appraisals, discipline, etc. Number 9, once the MUD board approves the fire budget, they will submit payment to the town monthly based on this budget throughout the fiscal year. Number 10, the MUD general manager will not be involved in day-to-day fire operations. And by the way, I have discussed this subject, not these 13 items, with Jennifer, but it was a private conversation, and if she wants to add anything, feel free to do so. Number 11, the net impact will be similar to hiring an outside contractor to run the fire department on a day-to-day basis. Number 12, EMS and fire employees will be considered town employees. Number 13, if necessary, interim budget adjustments for fire will be submitted to the MUD board for approval.
Okay, pretty much, and I mean, Donnie or Philip or Neil can jump in here. That sounds like you were sitting in the room with us, because everything you mentioned is what we had. I might want to add one thing. We had a measurement system that, on an annual basis, the MUD would do and make sure that the SOPs are being carried out operational, because we are, as Jim mentioned earlier, we're the ones that ultimately are responsible for it. And then we also agreed that if there's something wrong, there'd be a process in place that you would carry out to document the discrepancies that were found, and then the town manager, in this case, would have X amount of days to correct it, and then it drop into another category.
Yeah, I don't have any objection to that sort of thing. I do believe that both managers, MUD and town, would like it to be understood that the town manager is running the show. And that's better for both of them to have it that way.
Well, there's the summary, and what you just read is pretty much what is on there.
Jim, you're pretty much mirroring what we're discussing tonight. But one of the problems we have is the current ILA is not reflective.
No, it had to be a new ILA.
That's the essential part. Now, one other thing we did talk about, and this is on the budget side, is that the town manager and the MUD general manager would get together and they would agree on a combined EMS fire budget, and then they could make their presentation to, instead of us going back and forth, they have an agreed upon budget, then they'd come to like the mud board or the town council and say,
Well,
this-
see, I disagree with that a little bit from this standpoint, that if the town manager puts together the fire budget, it represents what he and the fire chief think is necessary for the coming year. But that's not the final approval. The mud board is the final approval on the on the fire budget. Once we do that budget, we basically buy into it or make a change if we think it's necessary. And then once the year starts, we figure out what we owe them each month and we pay them either the first of the month or 15th or whatever date you want to pick. But I would like to see the the mud manager relieved of the requests, if I guess for lack of a better word, that she gets fairly regularly about the fire department. You know, let's take that burden off of her.
There's two things you mentioned as far as the budget. The current ILA says that once we were given a budget by the town of personnel matter, cost. Once we approve it, that's it. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Okay, well, we have recently received additional invoices that
know we
weren't
have.
in there. And I personally, I don't think we...
Well, the way I see it, once you put it in the the fire budget, and the town manager and the fire chief get together and agree on that budget, then they come to the mud. We are giving up, the mud is giving up control of the fire department on a day-and-day basis. But I don't want to be completely, they should be willing to agree that we have budgetary control over fire. And once we settle on that budget, then we fade into the background and the town manager runs the thing.
Yeah, the only thing, without getting down to the, lower levels, but on things like the fire truck, the quint, the pumper, things like that, we need to know up front. Like, we've always planned years ahead of time when there's a need for that, and that's one of the deals that this firm is supposed to do, is come up with a replacement policy. Is that correct?
Yes, I was going to add that is one of the items that I put in the request for proposals would be to come up with a replacement schedule that would give you all, it's not going to be something etched in stone that's the way you have to do it, but that's kind of one of the things that I felt like myself and the fire department should kind of vet before that gets out there, because we are more familiar with the unique requirements of Trophy Club. And that was, back to the question of the final recommendations before they're presented up the scale. But that was one of the items that I had hoped that we could kind of get that leveled out to where we feel comfortable that the consultant may be looking at what they do in New York City. And I don't think that is going to be the recommendation that we would want presented as this is what an equipment replacement looks like. We don't use our vehicles as much as the New York Fire Department uses theirs. So there's going to be differences, and that was kind of the idea behind that. But yes, to answer your question, that is one of the items that I had hoped to get accomplished in this, is overall look at equipment replacement, inventory, how we're keeping inventory. Is there a better way to keep inventory, and when we should be replacing? There's a difference in capital improvements and just plain old inventory. I don't think the cost of a new fire hat is classified as a capital asset, but there should be a replacement program in place for all of our very important pieces of uniform, as we've already kind of gone through, that we didn't really have that in place. to make sure that those things were being tested and removed from the system as they needed to be. So those are all the kinds of things that I was hoping we could get put into a book, and whoever oversees and manages the fire department would have very set guidelines. This is what's expected, and then it's just brought to you all. It makes it simpler. It's no different than how I manage the water and the wastewater system. I expect the guys to follow the rules, and they have a set of guidelines, and they're expected to follow those. And
Yeah, I think by having budgetary control, you can accomplish all of the objectives that you just listed.
well, I think
because-
it could be the board would have a very good understanding of this year it's time to replace an X. And those things could be put into the budget, whether it's the district manager creating the budget or the town manager
I think
creating the budget.
you already started down that path on a limited basis when you began several years ago to put money back for the truck, the new fire truck. So it would be the same type of thing if there are large capital expenditures. I totally agree with you. The mud board should insist that there be reserves built up over a period of time to handle these large capital expenditures, because my 1 year of reviewing fire budgets, it seemed to me like we spent the vast majority of time of talking about the fire truck, which is a new fire truck, which is a large capital expenditure, and personnel. But if the MUD is the final approving authority, now I'm all for expanding that to, if there are other capital expenditures that need to be reserved for, let's do it. But it is a budgetary problem, and it can be handled through the budget. So I personally would be unwilling to give up control of the fire budget to the town. I'm willing to give up day-to-day operation by the town, and on a relatively non-interference type of situation, because wouldn't think, Jennifer, that you want to get halfway involved in running the fire department. You either want to run it or you want to get out of it.
Well, again, just to, I think I'm understanding you, but you mentioned earlier that the operational control under the town would be with a joint town manager, general manager agreed SOPs to make sure that our operational.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I said Jennifer should do the MUD SOPs and Stephen should do the EMS SOPs.
Kevin,
Thomas, you have a-
that was kind of where I was earlier tonight, that issue of SOPs. Because, Danny, quick question for you. You got a pumper, you got a ladder truck. You
Yes,
got
sir.
one sitting on the ground firing up, you got one up in the air firing down. You got to fire in one of these big houses up in the roof, or you got to fire in fourth story over in Westlake. Is it more effective shooting up or shooting down on it?
Just depends on where it's at and what's
Just a
taking
simple
place.
question. I mean, which is easier to fight?
Which way is the wind blowing, by the way?
Hey, you're thinking. From elevated, we have an advantage point at elevation
Oh,
on
that's-
those higher buildings.
Listen,
Taller.
logic just says that. Now, the reason I asked that question, I've said this several times. I like Kevin where y'all are headed with this. I mean, I really do. I kind of like, Jim, what you said. The thing that I want to stress is that when you get to the actual, and I've said this before, that we got a very smart person here, and she works with Patricia, a very smart person. And these two people can get together and put the right language around an ILA that ensures that we don't get ourselves in jeopardy down the road across the street. Because, guys, let me tell you something. Westlake doesn't have a ladder truck. And it is a tremendous reason for using us, and a tremendous reason for us charging a fire tax over there, is we got this great big old vehicle can go over there and shoot down on the fires and help them out. And I do not want to ever put us in a position, because of whatever language we structure in this deal, that could potentially 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now put us in jeopardy of that taxation across the street.
Okay, any
I
further
think,
discussion?
Councilman Joplin.
I want to point out too that to your point, and I agree with what everybody said, there still has to be a major line of communication, I think, between Stephen and Jennifer. because, as Lou pointed out, the town doesn't go and flush hydrants in Solana. So, I mean, Jennifer is responsible for that. And so I think that, you know, and we talked about quarterly meetings between the two, but she's responsible for that, and she has to make sure those things get done, you know, whereas Stephen doesn't. So I think there's got to be communication. And I personally want to get away from mud fire SOPs and town EMS SOPs. I had rather that it be the Trophy Club Fire Department SOPs that you can agree to and we can agree to, that we're operating under one set of rules, not just, you know, separate SOPs. But I think we should bring them together as the Trophy Club Fire Department SOPs. So.
Well, you mentioned something about, you know, Jennifer would be responsible for flushing the hydrants. If you guys are running the operation, you are responsible.
Well, I know, but ultimately that comes down.
Well, it's just like the operational. I mean, the mud.
No, and I agree, but I'm saying I think that's just something that I think that has to be, that line of communication we can't just sever, you know, where Stephen's totally in control and never talks to Jennifer. That's not going to work.
No,
So
talking is fine, but
yeah,
if I were Stephen, I would want to run the fire department
and I
and
don't
the
disagree.
EMS.
I don't disagree with that, but still, I think.
I think that flushing the fire hydrants is something you could see in the budget.
Yeah.
So if you know, once we give Stephen, if we go down this route, which I would recommend, but if we give Stephen, or he gives us the budget that he and the fire chief think belongs to the fire department, then it's up to us to say, do we think you got everything covered here? And, you know, the responsibility then comes to the Bud Board. And we ultimately are responsible for the fire budget. But once we buy into it, then I think Stephen is responsible for running it.
Well, and I don't disagree, but I still think that you have to have that, and we talked about this as a committee, that you have to have, whether it be monthly, quarterly, you know, you have to have that communication. You can't just, you know, not have communication between the two managers. Right. You know, I mean, we can discuss that more on August or July 14th, but I think
it's just not on that specific topic, the fire. It's with everything.
Exactly.
You know, and I'll just leave it at that, because right now it's not happening the way it should happen.
And I don't disagree. I think that there should. I think that we've, as the two bodies, have always said that we need to have more communication.
An example was brought up tonight where she sent an email requesting a person to come, and
I'm
for whatever reason.
Not disputing that, Kevin.
Well, God knows I don't want to speak about lack of communication. I'm for that, just like apple pie and my mom. So it's just.
But I agree.
But I do think we need to have responsibilities identified, and if one of those is you want the two managers to meet quarterly, see how things are going, or monthly even, but I don't want to burden Jennifer with what she's been burdened with from the day she walked in here. Yeah. And that is, things come to her and you guys send her a bill because somebody bought out their vacation, and we don't even know about buying out vacations. So I want to get her out of that business.
And I think that's why I go back to, it should be the Trophy Club Fire Department SOPs, operating procedures, you know, personnel policy. It should all be under one. And I think that both parties should agree to it.
If we're both getting some expert advice on how the fire should be run and how the EMS should be run, they will probably suggest that you have a common set of SOPs that applies to both EMS and fire. Yeah. I'd be highly surprised if they don't recommend that.
Yeah. And I agree with Neil too. The ILA, you know, I think that's what we realized real quick when we got into this, that agreement really was antiquated. Really wasn't working for what
it wasn't being followed as it stated.
followed, or, you know, I mean, there were just questions on who's, yeah, I can understand Jennifer's, you know, doubt on what she's supposed to do. I can understand Stephen's doubt on what he was supposed to do, because it just wasn't clear.
Yeah, I think Councilman Chaffin was trying to delay our meeting.
Yeah,
And
I
make it
know.
a council.
There you go.
Well, now, Philip, I did want to say one thing. Look, I've always thought that a fire department SOPs was one set of SOPs, but it's written in such a way that it has a fire services element to it, and it has a EMS element to it, but it's one set of SOPs.
No, it isn't.
Donnie, can you
Well, let me finish.
explain that for him?
Well, let me
What
just
are
fin-
the SOPs?
Hang
What
on,
are
let me
the
just finish
current
my
SOPs?
Jennifer, let me just finish my statement, then go there. Philip, my only concern is that if we have that, and again, I'm back to that responsibility across the highway. As long as we've got that responsibility across the highway, we've got to have some say-so on the fire services SOPs to make sure they fit our obligations across the highway. That's my point.
I don't disagree, but I think we should both agree to it.
Yeah.
It should be one document.
Right now, is it one or two documents? What are the SOPs right now?
We have one fire department policy that oversees operations of the fire department, and then we branch off into EMS protocol that oversees the EMS function, how we treat a patient. That's a provision that's provided to us by the medical director. And in that piece, then there is some other aspects of how we conduct business on the EMS side because of legality for medical things, the HIPAA regulation, how we dispose of medical waste.
There's, what you're saying, there's two
There's-
SOPs.
There's two sets of documents, yes, that we can.
And there's an SOG for fire right now. Well,
Well-
actually, there's two SOGs. Stephen has one.
Well, the
dated
one
back.
that Stephen provided me is, it's just called the DPS.
It's when we were
Oh.
Department of Public Safety.
Right. And are you saying that document covered both EMS and fire? Or did that only cover fire or EMS?
Just fire.
Just
And
fire?
Then we broke it down into medical policies under the protocols. That's governed by Texas Department of Health and Human Services. They changed names a couple of
Well,
years ago.
I get there's a protocol, or a procedure for every kind of policy. But the policy is the standard operating procedures that are the DPS ones. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, along with that addendum that he made that he's provided from 12 or 13 or whatever dates on that you have.
Okay, any further
I
discussion?
wanted to ask the committee, are you guys trying to accomplish this for the 16 budget? Are you
Right. Well,
anticipating it may not take effect till 17?
right now, I think we're kind of down the road pretty far to do anything.
I think so too. I think it's, I want to encourage you to get it done early in 17 or the last part of 16, so we don't roll around the next April and we're starting to work budgets and we don't have an ILA. I want to encourage you all to get that ILA written at the earliest point in time, but I doubt that you can make it effective in 15, 16.
Okay, any other comments on the committee report?
It's the longest update I've ever been part of.
Right, isn't it though? Okay, Jennifer, item 12, General Manager's Monthly Report for May 2015.
Okay, I just have a little update on the projects for you. The other information that's in your packet, you're welcome to ask questions. On the wastewater treatment plant, the contractors set up their temporary office on site, and they're, in the process of getting power to it. The location where the first MBR is to be constructed has been marked off, and they're scheduled to start demoing the old out-of-service clarifier this week. And we are waiting for the contractor to submit some plans to the town for approval on a temporary road out there, as well as they will be submitting plans for the new building that will be out there. It's kind of where we are on the wastewater plant. On the sewer line relocation at Lift Station 2, all the manholes have been set and they're connected to each other. The creek bed has been cleared of all the concrete and debris and leveled, and the SCADA system's been restored to the lift station number 2. I have not been out there myself this week. I was out there last week, and it was starting to look really good. And Carl said that you won't even recognize what the creek looks like out there now. It looks really, really nice there.
What location is this, Jeff?
I didn't recognize Carl.
Lift station number 2, which is over off of T.W. King.
Oh, right, down there by the highway, the road.
The Sabre sewer line, the staff has done a walkthrough on the project, and pretty much they're completed. Everything looks good, except for there's one manhole that's left to check and make sure it was installed properly. Apparently the contractor hit something, was it a gas line? And so that's taking some time to get that repaired. And so we're kind of waiting on them to get that repaired, and then we can go take a look at that, that last manhole, and we will be completed with the water line relocation in Solana, the one here at the Sabre building.
Jennifer, do you know, by any chance, have they sold that property to someone? I mean, they've tearing that building up anew. They've ripped out all the parking lots. It's operating almost as if they've got a buyer and a building it for somebody.
Yes, they do.
Is it public knowledge?
The name of the owner is, yes, it's, that's all served by South Lake. That whole complex is served by South Lake, not by us anymore. And it seems like I did know the name at one point, but well, actually, it's whoever we have the agreement with. What is their name? I can't think of it off the top of my head. I keep wanting to say McGuire, and it's like McGuire, but it's not McGuire. But it's who we actually have the agreement with, and when I stop talking, I'll look it up and come back to you. It's on my computer.
Just curious.
The next project, the streets projects, the Pebble Beach, Timberline, and Pin Oak Court. A meeting was held on June 8th to meet with the affected residents and address any of their concerns, and the contractor has a estimated start date of June 22nd. We are waiting to get the final bonds approved and the forms of bonds and things, and then they should be ready to go then. The water system study, Mike has met with the Wallace Group on several occasions. He's provided a lot of maps and plans and things that they needed, and they're underway working on that right now. That's kind of it on the projects that I have. Oh, the security deposit from THB Contractors. We did receive a check for $35,000 and the signed contract. And I went and opened a CD, and we actually need some director signatures on that tonight so we can get the card back to her. But that is the $35,000 security that the developer's contractor put up. If you recall, back in January, they installed a line, an unauthorized tap. The line broke and caused basically a pond to drain to or a lake to drain to the wastewater plant, caused a sanitary sewer overflow, or a reportable incident, I should say, wasn't a sanitary sewer overflow, but a reportable incident to TCQ. They could fine us in the future, so this CD we purchased in our name. The agreement that we have with them is we will hold that CD for 3 years, and if we're fined, we can use the money towards a fine. So that has been finalized. That was, to kind of jump ahead, that was an item that we had listed for closed session that we don't need to have closed session now. We've got that all taken care of. So that's all I have on my projects, and I'll kind of leave it to y'all if you have any questions.
Are you going to go back and do C and D?
Do you have any questions about C? C, I believe, was a handout. We did not get those in time for the packet. The website analytics. Did you have a question about those, Jim?
Just want an update on D, from a financial perspective. I saw the report. Looks like there's less than 100 PID homes left.
Y'all want to go over that?
There's 57 at the end of May, but we were paid the very first year when Murdad had to guarantee 150 homes, and it came up 42 short, and he had to pay those 42 utility fees. So if you add the 42 to the 57, there's actually 99 left.
Okay.
So Ron was showing 106, and he was going to go back and see if they had some clerical issues with that number.
But on your books.
My
we've
books
received
is 99.
Funds 2,300 for 99.
Mhm.
And then plus the 42.
99 includes the 42.
Yeah, so then it go down to 57 is what we actually are still owed money.
Additionally owed, yes.
And from what I understand, the ILA, and I have to go back and check it, but I remember something that said that the developer will get the remaining funds that come in after that. You remember, Jim Hayes? Or-
Yes, I do.
Yeah,
It
is
was
that how
the-
it says? Yeah, that's what I
Okay,
thought
so
it
the
said.
town would have a payable back to the developer
Yeah, the
for
developer would get
all
the
of 'em.
additional
Okay.
permitting
Okay.
stuff for it. Anything over what we were told, and I think that was
After it passes
1407 is the number.
1417, I think.
No.
1409?
1407, right. Yeah. Did you get your answer, Jim Thomas? On the-
I have just two quick I guess for Carl, with all the rain we've been getting for the wastewater plant, has that been presenting any unusual problems? Because, I mean, we've had more water flowing to the plant than this is something I think Director Thomas recognized, there's more than we're actually pumping, because now,
Yes.
because of water flowing through manhole covers, but sometimes when we have that kind of inundation, we have other issues down there. So has everything been handled correctly?
Oh, yes, it has.
I mean,
and
the
we've
report's
actually-
really reflected, but it probably takes extra effort. So,
So, John, I was asked a question by a resident on the break or the overflow of the inverted siphon, which is actually a PID-owned
Mhm.
line. Is that correct?
Yes.
So they're the ones that own the line. They just happens to cross the border like the mud houses, something to that. But were there one break or two? I mean, not breaks, but overflows of that?
There's actually two. There's one in January, and there's one in April
Okay.
at that siphon.
Would that should go against the town system, is that correct?
It will be, okay, back in January, the SSO was reported, the inverted siphon is actually located in the mud, but it is not part of the mud infrastructure, it's the town's infrastructure. Carl did not realize that, and when he reported it in January, he reported it as a mud sanitary sewer overflow. When we later looked at that, we realized that inverted siphon actually belongs to the PID. It's part of their infrastructure. This is where it gets a little difficult along those edges where we don't really know if the infrastructure is the MUDs or the towns. But in this case, it was reported as the districts. But in April, when it occurred, it was reported as the towns because it was a town sanitary sewer overflow. We now know that. When we get anything along the edges now, before any reports are done, we're going to kind of sit down and make sure that we know if that's the districts or the towns when it's reported.
So along that same line, there's 60-something houses, 62 or something like that. Phil probably knows off the top of his head. Are actually mud district property, but they have PID lines in them. So if a line breaks in that area, is that reported on the town or us? It's in our district, but the town has come pretty clear that says they own those lines.
You mean a sewer line?
Right.
Okay. If a sewer line breaks, yes, it will be reported as a town.
Okay.
Because it's the town's infrastructure.
Okay.
Further questions, anybody? Jim?
Have we, Jennifer, just based on my own evaluation, that looks like the the Evaluation Trophy Club soared from Denton County this year. On your preliminary reports, have you got any gut feel for how much percent growth it is
Well,
over last year?
some
I realize it'll
evaluation-
change in July, but
Yeah, some evaluation was additional houses. Is that correct?
yeah, but I'm just saying, yeah, but across the board, it looks like every single house. I took a 9.998%.
It's about
increase.
time. That's all I gotta say. About time. With that garden and that tropical, you probably charge fees to walk through that thing now.
Actually, Kevin, I got it negotiated down, but anyway, it's just the community as a whole really is doing well, and I'm just wondering if it's reflecting in the cost.
Well, what
values.
we've shown here is the estimate. I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question correctly, but what we're showing is for the Tarrant County, and this again is just it's not the certified, it's just a preliminary, but it's showing about a 9% increase in the net tax value. The Mud Denton area is showing about a 15%, and then the PID emergency services about a 22%. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, ma'am, exactly. Thank you.
With that, I mean, the assessment fee that we collect, it's based off these numbers? Or, like, as far as the tax rate?
When they're final, yeah.
Yeah. Whenever the final comes out in July or whatever.
Yes, we will take these, the PID emergency services amount, and we will add to that the out-of-district amounts, the amounts that, the values for those that are not in the PID and not in the district. And that is what we will calculate the fire tax on the MUD side and the assessment amount on the PID side.
I'm asking because I'm hoping they go up a lot so that we have a minimal tax increase, if any.
And per,
We all hope that.
Well,
yeah,
what
and
I'm
through,
saying.
and through the ILA, that's what the town would owe us by, I think, January 31st, is that correct?
What, you mean the,
assessment.
yeah,
yes, the PID, that's for the emergency services, yes.
And the ones, the properties you just referenced out of the district.
Yes, they are not included on here. We did not get that. We were just getting we don't get it by property just yet, so we just gave you what we have. But added to that will be the amounts that are the out-of-district amount.
Okay.
and I just want to add for Jim Thomas, basically on the non-PID area, and not talking about Solana, there's about 30 million in new residential values and about 10 million in construction.
That much?
You got, well, take a walk down the end of Indian Creek.
Yeah.
You know,
Wow.
and also in Hogan Glen. I mean, there's been a lot on that side, and there's still about 20 million of that that'll be probably added into next year. Okay, and that's again the non-PID. I mean, the PID is pretty much going on pretty much as we projected, and so we're pretty much there. The number that you're showing here is almost what, go back to our CAC days. We're within 99%, within 1% of that.
Good.
So the only thing I might add is because of things not moving as fast this year, but I think in the next couple of years, the new values over there is going to catch up rapidly. Where the Solana side of our district is going to greatly appreciate.
As they improve that property, you bet.
Oh yeah.
Okay, any further questions?
I'm good.
Okay. If we have no further questions on the general manager's report, let's move to item 13.
Jim, there's no question, but I would like to make one thing. Jennifer, if I could ask a favor. Now, I realize this creates a little bit more work for Laurie, but in the minutes for last month, on your items, there was no description for anything. It was just listed the items. And I think we ought to capture the things that are being said in the minutes for your report as well as all the other items in the report.
Could I add to that, if you don't, since we're still, we used to put the items on the agenda, like, rare case I would request something on there, okay? It would say requested by, Director Carr or Director Thomas, and then we kind of got away from that. Was there a reason for that, or, I mean, it kind of makes it easy where you know who asked to put it on there.
Who to blame?
Yeah, exactly. That's why I don't put too much on there. But Was there a reason for that, or?
We can add that back.
I just found it helpful myself.
Okay.
Any other comments? If not, let's move to the fire report. Fire Department report for May 2015. Donnie?
Yes, sir. If you notice, we're down a little bit in runs comparative to the average of the months before, and that's just if you look at the historical data, then that's just for some reason the month of May we slow down a little bit. Let me scroll down here. If you're able to notice, we were able to get response times down as well. We didn't have all the back-to-back calls that we had in the previous month, and we didn't have a lot of the rain events that kind of slowed us down, where we were going from call to call to call. So some calls held a little bit the previous month. Is some reason why times was up that month and why we're back down. Let's see here. I don't think anything really stands out. Does anybody have any questions about the
Was there
data?
a fatal accident down there by the Lake City Church?
Yes, sir. There was a fatality accident in the city. I do not know what contributed to the accident. I just know that the person was driving. Well, that would be north on Davis Boulevard. He failed to make the left-hand turn. He come up over the curb, over the wall, and then landed in the church parking lot in the back, and basically demolished the car into numerous pieces. And it was a result of the accident. The car caught on fire. It was, I believe, around 2:30 in the morning or so.
Jim, the K-rail that supposedly as a buffer there is basically demolished.
Yeah,
and I don't know about turn because it looks like it just took it head on.
There's no skid marks. There's nothing. I don't know if he was from the area. I don't know any information about him or what contributed to him missing the turn. But if you go down there and look, you can see the K-rail, and you know exactly where the car went over at. And that.
Did Roanoke have our Quint for a couple days or something?
No, sir. They had contacted us. They were having some severe mechanical problems with all their equipment. They were down to the reserve Quint and an ambulance, and that was all they owned. And they were having some mechanical difficulties with their Quint. And they didn't know if it was going to have to go to the shop or not. And it did not go to the shop, so we did not loan them any equipment.
So you didn't have an increase in mutual aid when all that equipment was down?
No, sir, we didn't. They were able to.
That's lucky.
Very, very much so. They was able to keep that piece of equipment in service. They didn't take it down, so we wasn't going over their own fire calls.
And then we had some issues with our pumper truck.
Yes, sir. We had some issues with the engine. We were having some transmission issues. We were really fortunate that that it was some sensor issues. We'd sent it to one shop. They said that they would be able to diagnose and look at everything. And when they told us that they couldn't figure it out, that the best that they could come up with that it was an internal issue. We were, I don't know a word that, we were really concerned that we were going to have a transmission rebuilt, and we got it over to Inland, which Inland is the distributor repair shop for Allison automatic transmissions, and they were able to replace some sensors, not able to get it duplicated, and it's back and we have it running.
Working good?
Yes, sir. We have it.
All the equipment's up?
Yes, sir.
Back to that accident, who works that? I mean, obviously, that where he exited was Keller Westlake, but where he ended up was in our territory.
Our fire department worked the accident. I believe the police department from Keller, since they cover Westlake, the accident occurred or started in Westlake's district, and so therefore Keller PD has to work it. So, like if we're down here at the intersection of Trophy Club Drive and 114, and an accident happens in the intersection, but ends up in the town limits, then Keller still works it because it started in their territory, not in ours. So, but we make we make several runs that's on the border that starts in Westlake and ends up in Trophy Club, and because of the way the cell phone
You don't
towers
stand on the line and go, no, that's yours.
Yeah, we if it goes off, we go down there, and that if we deem it Westlake, then we leave it with Westlake if they have it, and if not, then we handle everything that comes in appropriately.
Okay, thank you.
Is there no questions to the report or anything? I had one other thing.
It was noticeable on the response times this
Yes,
month.
sir.
That's a material improvement.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. A lot of the calls, if you notice, was in District 1, District 2, which is in this area up to the Tom Thumb area and just a little bit past it. So it shortened the runs down, so we were able to.
I mean, maybe I overlooked it, but when you were filling in for 2-3 weeks, whatever it was, out the side of those mutual aid responses, I think, like what it was for. Was that you that was doing it, or?
I was when I was filling in. We were making notes just so that
Yeah, but they'd show up on the report.
I'd have to go back and look.
I like that. So now it's
I
not here
can
anymore.
make the suggestion.
Yeah, if you would.
Yes.
That'd be good.
On a different note to the report, I don't know if y'all looked at when I provided Jennifer with the weekly update last week or the week before, I believe. I gave you the link to look at the new ladder truck. They did put some new pictures up on the 12th, and so a lot of it's painted, and you're able to look at some things. I didn't know if anybody had any questions to what they were looking at the new truck or
Pink, right?
Chassis looked pretty good.
It's looking very nice. It is. It's coming
Jennifer, I
along.
had a question on mutual aid. Do we approve mutual aid agreements for the fire department?
Yes, we
We
should.
do, and we have.
I think the agreement that we had tonight, the interjurisdictional, a hard word to say, agreement, that was not approved by the district, that was approved by the town last time.
Okay.
There's another one that's mentioned earlier, that automatic aid that actually was approved by Roanoke, but it didn't mention anything about the Trophy Club fire.
Let me go back to that summary too, because I think there was another one that is supposed to be brought back at some point. It's on the summary.
What page, Jennifer?
If you go to page 149, if you look to the right, the far right column, it shows on each agreement who signed it. And the second one was the agreement tonight, but the pre-existing one, the interjurisdictional mutual aid agreement, it's an automatic renewal every 12 months is the way that it works in that agreement. And it was originally approved by the town, not the district. And I believe there's another one. Yes. This is one that I thought we had already addressed, but I learned that it wasn't addressed. The Mutual Aid Fire Protection and EMS Services Agreement is the agreement that is with the Northeast Fire Department Association, NEFTA. And I believe it was year before last, yes, it was year before last, that I learned and Pam learned that was an agreement that was signed by the town, yet we were funding it every year. And it was the dues to NEFTA are, I think, about $5,000. But what was particularly happening in that year was they started a new program where the agreement would cover capital improvements, or I'm sorry, capital replacements in the future. And our portion for that first year was about $12,000. And so I had requested that we get a new agreement so that if the district's going to pay the amount and we're bound to do that, it needed the board had to approve that. What I did not realize is the only thing that was brought to us by the fire chief at that time was the capital improvement, or the capital replacement portion. I did not realize there was a separate agreement for the dues or the association itself. That is one that he is working with NEFTA to get another one. So right now there's two agreements that were signed by the town and not the district.
Okay. Any other questions for Donnie? I ran across a paragraph in the ILA that clarified something for me, and I'd like to read it just for everybody's benefit. Article 2.02, Control and Oversight. Jointly funded employees are town employees and are therefore subject exclusively to town personnel policies. However, MUD 1 shall have control and oversight over firefighting services, and town shall have control and oversight over emergency medical services. As a result, MUD 1 shall have exclusive authority to establish standard operating procedures for firefighting services, hereinafter Mode 1 SOPs, and town shall have exclusive authority to establish standard operating procedures for medical emergency services, hereinafter town SOPs. In the event that a joint employee violates a MUD 1 SOP, MUD 1 shall have exclusive authority to discipline the jointly funded employee, including termination. Likewise, in the event that a joint employee violates a town SOP, the town shall have exclusive authority to discipline the jointly funded employee, including termination. In the event of an appeal of disciplinary action or any other adverse employment action as a result of the violation of MUD 1 SOPs, town SOPs, or town personnel policies, the appeal shall be in accordance with the processes set forth in the town's personnel policies. I read that just because it was of interest to me, and I did not fully understand that at this point. I thought somebody else might not either. Any other comments on the fire report?
Just real quick on that, I think the SOPs we discussed earlier where Jennifer has been asking for them, found out there's actually 2 of them, not including the third one, the EMS, which I think you described earlier. Is that right, Donnie? That there's a separate procedure for EMS.
Yes, sir. There's EMS that governs how we treat a person.
But, I mean, this, I think the same thing said that they should have been created when this thing was written in, I think, 2008 and then revised in 2013 or something. And so we've gone all this time, and per the ILA, it wasn't being carried out. So I think Jennifer elaborated earlier about, the need to get, okay, SOPs, and are these the ones that you're following? And it's confusing to the firefighters if you have 2 of them on file, and it's like, I'm familiar with this one, and so.
Okay, thank you. Is any other questions about anything at this point? We no longer have a closed session scheduled for tonight, so we will jump down to the items for future agendas. Does anybody have items for future agendas?
That's why I voted for you for president, because you just skipped over that executive
That's the way to do it, huh?
Yeah.
I'd like to skip some more of it, frankly. Items for future agendas, anybody? If not, and we do have a procedure for putting items on future agendas. Jennifer, would you help me by expressing the deadline for agenda items is the Monday before
The week we post.
second Tuesday for agenda items to be in.
The Monday before the third Tuesday, right? So, in other words, not yesterday Monday, but the Monday before is the deadline to put in things for the agenda.
That doesn't apply to me, though, right?
Right.
Well, I do have a future agenda item. I would like to have a discussion of the reserve percentage of the 35% we use. Is that really adequate?
Lori, you got her? Okay, any other items for the future agenda?
Well, whenever, I guess July 14th for a joint meeting or something like that, if we have it, just put the fire EMS presentation on there. I don't know when we're looking at July 14th, but it's not cast in stone.
I think that you all took action that you did not want to do it on a council day or board meeting date. And that is a council meeting date. And I don't know, is that a normal one, or did y'all move it to that? But you're only having one or something, right? Yeah. So I knew it was something different. So I did want to point that out, that is a council meeting
So I guess
day.
it'd have to be a different day that's specifically for a joint meeting. July 4th, that's open. After parade, we can sit down.
Okay, any other items for future agenda? The next regular meeting, July the 21st, 2015, at 6 p.m. If there's no other business.
I
we-
have one other thing I want to ask. If everyone could be looking at their calendars for a possible budget workshop on August the 19th. You don't have to commit to that tonight, but next month when we're doing the July agenda at the end, we'll want to, kind of set a budget workshop date. And Neil is flying in and back and forth from where it's cool. So, so I think he said he'll be here like that, kind of the rest of that week, the next week as well. But that's a day that works really good for the staff as well. So if everyone will just kind of look at that and be prepared next month to know if the 19th would work.
19th of July.
August the 19th.
Okay, if there are no other comments, we are hereby adjourned. The time is 8:21. Is that a record?
No, but it's good. We'll take it.
It's good. Jennifer, I told you 8:40.